What if the history you learned in school was just a story, a really carefully constructed narrative designed to hide something much, much deeper? We're kicking off today's explainer with that exact thought straight from our source material. Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty wild theory from a book called Nine. It basically suggests that our entire historical record has been deliberately rewritten. This one's a trip, so let's get right into it. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start big with the core theory, then narrow down to see how this grand plan supposedly worked. After that, we'll look at the author's really unique methods, dig into the personal motivation behind it all, and finally, zoom back out for the big takeaway. It's kind of like an hourglass journey, you'll see. Okay, let's dive right into the heart of it. The main idea here, the big theory, is that our reality is basically encrypted, that the history we all think we know has been manipulated on purpose. So who's behind all this? Well, according to the book, it's a group the author calls the Watch. The idea is that this is an ancient secret society with roots stretching all the way back to Canaan, and they've been pulling the strings of civilization for thousands of years. But why? Right? What's the motivation? The book proposes this concept called the legacy reflex. It's described as this deep, subconscious drive, which he actually links back to a Neanderthal ancestry, that just compels this group to control the narrative of history. Now, this is where it gets really wild. The whole theory basically hinges on one key player, a 15th century operative who goes by the codename G. And here's the kicker, the central claim. This one person was secretly the mastermind behind three totally different, incredibly important historical figures, all at the same time. And just so you know, if you want to dig into the source material yourself, the author's website is the place to go for the audiobook and other info. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how on earth could one secret group pull something like this off for centuries? Let's get into the mechanics of how they supposedly did it. The book lays out this absolutely massive timeline of influence. It starts with the Watch's origins way back when, then pinpoints the 15th century as this huge moment when history got rewritten. It even frames the Renaissance not as an awakening, but as a controlled release of information, and draws a straight line from all that to the global surveillance state we see today. And here it is. This is probably the single most audacious claim in the entire book. It proposes that Leon Battista Alberti, the Italian Renaissance man, Nezahualcoyotl, the founder of the Aztec city-state of Texcoco, and Pachacuti, the great Inca architect and emperor, were all secretly the exact same person, the operative G. So what were their tools? How did they actually maintain that control? Well, the book claims they used some incredibly powerful methods. Things like engineering major world religions to control populations, spreading financial systems like double-entry bookkeeping to control economies, and even orchestrating huge historical events and guiding entire empires to fit their grand design. And again, for anyone wanting to go down that rabbit hole, all the details supporting these claims are on the author's website. Okay, a theory this big, you've got to be asking, where is all this coming from? Well, the author's methodology is just as unconventional as the theory itself. So here's the process described in the book, and it is different. He basically used Wikipedia as his raw data. He copied articles related to G and that time period, laid historical timelines over them, and started looking for what he calls fractal patterns and weird overlaps. Then he rewrote and combined everything to fit this unified story of the Watch. Now, the author doesn't really see this as traditional research. It's more like remixing history. And he actually points to this Edgar Allan Poe quote to kind of frame his whole approach. The idea being that true originality is about combining existing pieces in a totally new way. You know the drill by now. If you want to check out the source for yourself, head over to the author's site. All right, from here, the whole thing takes a really interesting turn. We go from this massive global conspiracy theory to something incredibly personal for the author. See, this isn't just some academic exercise for him. He flat out says the book is his way of self-deciphering, of decoding his own family history. He even proposes that he's a distant relative of Leon Battista Alberti, you know, one of the three identities of G. And he even brings his own DNA into the mix to connect the dots. Get this, his 23andMe results apparently show that he carries more Neanderthal variants than 73% of their other customers. He uses this to link himself directly back to that legacy reflex we talked about earlier. And he doesn't stop there. He dives deep into his specific genetic markers, his maternal and paternal haplogroups. He's showing how he traces his own family tree back to ancient farmers and Near East populations, weaving his own DNA right into the fabric of this grand historical narrative.
And one last time, you can find all these personal details and connections laid out on the website.
Okay, so secret societies, rewritten history, personal DNA connections. After all that, what are we supposed to do with this information? What's the point of it all?
This is where the author brings it all home. He basically says the point isn't to get bogged down in whether history was rewritten or not. He shifts the whole focus to the future, posing this question to us: what will we write next? And that really is the final thought. The book takes this huge speculative theory and turns it right back on you. It asks you to think about your own life. Are you just a passenger reading a story that's already been written for you? Or are you the one holding the pen? It's a heck of a thought to end on.